Yeah, but with me, I've got former IBF and WBA world champion Paulie Malingnagggi, and we're just going to chat and have a little catch up. How are we doing, Paulie, mate?
I'm good, mate. Chilling. Just want to say what's up to all my UK fans. Big up to Coogan as well.
Yeah,
Couldn't be here, but what happened to you? You can't be skipping these shows. I'm glad you got your right hand man here, though.
Thanks, Paulie. I appreciate that, mate. As I said, this is a big week. No doubt the implications of this fight will have a big bearing on the division. The likes of Tyson Fury looking to get at the winner. Do you think Tyson Fury can get himself in this mix?
I think it would be a fun fight, with Tyson fighting the winner of this fight. I think Tyson's always entertainment for the fans. He's got a fun style to watch. He's just flawed enough where it makes him interesting and entertaining because he could beat you, he could lose to you. But at the same time, you never know what he's going to say or do. And he's a big guy, so I think seeing a guy that big take over in the ring is always something people are going to be curious about, And so, especially him and Wilder, it'll be two giants in the ring. If Stavern wins, then even Stavern would make things interesting. You just want to see the heavyweight division really open up. Right now, Vladimir Klitschko's dominance is so much that it turns people off, but that's really a respect to Vladimir because he's so good. But at the same time, some of these other guys going up against each other, like Tyson Fury versus the winner of these guys tomorrow night, will be fun and interesting possibilities.
In the land of the giants of the heavyweights, this generation are all massive, aren't they?
Yeah, they're all massive, and it really it's pretty interesting. They're just getting bigger and bigger. I feel like this generation's heavyweights are something else. Bigger, stronger guys. I also don't count out a guy like David Haye. So David Haye, I think, is so much fun to watch. It's just he's not active enough.
We need the Haymaker back in 2015.
Yeah, man. I tell you, I think David Haye would have been great in any generation. I think he's great in this generation. It's just he just so happened to be unfortunate that he came along in the Klitschko generation, and the Klitschkos.
The land of the giants.
Yeah, the Klitschkos, and not so much the land of the giants, just the Klitschkos. Honestly, I think David Haye against anybody else, I'd pick David Haye. I think he's that good, but he just happened to come around in the Klitschko era, and Vladimir is just too good. And so it's unfortunate because I don't think David will ever get the appreciation he deserves and really the respect he deserves from boxing fans. Because honestly, you put David in the heavyweights of the 90s, I think David can match up against any of those guys. And some people might think I'm crazy, but honestly, man, I know talent and skills when I see it, and David has a ton of those, and he can punch.
What do you think of Anthony Joshua? He seems to be the poster boy for British heavyweight boxing at the moment. What are your thoughts on the big Anthony?
I think Joshua has been exciting. Obviously, he's yet to step up. It would have been nice to see him against Kingpin Johnson because Johnson has a way of not so much beating you. I don't think he would have beat Joshua, but I think he would have forced him to go some rounds. Johnson has a way of knowing if he's going to beat you, he'll beat you. If he knows he's not going to beat you, he has a way of knowing how to survive. And so, it would have been interesting to see if once Joshua would have convinced him in that fight that, Kevin wasn't going to be able to beat him, it would have been interesting to see how Johnson would have figured out a way to go 12 rounds, or if Anthony could have actually got the stoppage and really had added a nice feather in his hat, so to speak. So I'm a little disappointed the fight won't happen. Maybe it'll happen later on. I think it was a perfect next level fight for Joshua.
I mean, coming back to yourself now, rumours are rife that you're considering a comeback. I mean, do you need to do this? You've got a great career now as a fight analyst. You're really moving into a different direction with your work. Do you still feel the need and a hunger as a fighter to be in the ring?
Yeah. At times I just feel like something's missing. Not so much for the financials, but obviously financials always, I'm not going to fight for free, obviously. But at the same time, you want to get back in the mix at times. You just feel like you want to. I'm not saying I'm going to jump right back in the pool, but, maybe pick my spots. And you know what it is? I'll look for a plan back. If the plan makes sense for me, I'll do it. If the plan doesn't make sense, I won't do it. Right now we've been just having internal discussions about possibly fighting for the EBU title, at welterweight. I think it's a more realistic goal than saying, oh, you're going to fight Kell Brook. I don't think that's very realistic at the moment, So I think maybe trying to grab an EBU title or something of that nature, and then possibly fighting in the UK, which I've always wanted to do since I fought there. It would make things fun. It would motivate me to put on a show for fans that I think really appreciate me more than any other type of fans in the world.
100%.
And so, it would give me that motivation to want to train and want to be back, And then, of course, the fight is of that level where, okay, it's a good comeback. You fight for the EBU title. It's a good way to get your feet back wet. And then judging on how I look in that fight, judging on how I win the title, because that's a level of competition I've always dominated. That's sub world class level, I've always dominated. I've never really lost rounds against less than world class opposition. I've only always been tested against world class opposition and only world class. So I think if the way I would win that title, if I get the chance, if I don't dominate Bronco, I think it would obviously would have to leave me some questions. It would be a type of fight where I would have to dominate in order for me to look at myself in the mirror and realistically think that I'm of that world class level still. And so again, you just take that fight, and then you answer your own questions really, and you answer everybody else's questions, and then from there, hey, either I retire or I keep going. We'll see.
Do you look at some of the guys in the past that maybe went on a little bit too long and ended up suffering defeats to people that really wouldn't have got near them in their prime? Do you run the risk of that?
Yeah, no, I don't want to run the risk of that. One thing about my record, when I've lost to the fighters I've lost to, they had the highest win percentage probably of anybody else's career. I mean, I've had one of the toughest schedules out of any pro boxer. I've done it in an old school way. And not just the guys I fought, but when I fought them. If you look at their records at the time I fought them, it's among the highest of levels, in general. And so I think I think you also have to consider that when you look at my record. But at the same time, you don't want to look too far. You don't want to overdo it and go too far. I mean, I don't want to end up losing to a guy that has no business being in the ring with me, obviously. So yeah, I think about those things. I do, but I don't know. Yeah, it's just a hard decision to make, I guess.
We'll give it some thought. As I said, we're interested and keen to hear some news as and when it develops. As I said, you've got a massive fan base in the UK, and we really appreciate you giving BoxNation and Cassie's held a little bit of your time.
Always got time for the UK fans.
You're a top man.
And I'm in the UK at the end of this month, so check me out in Manchester, Vegas Fight Night.
Okay, top man. Thank you, Paulie.
Thanks.